and I want to thank everyone for joining AI Marketers Guild today, and especially thank Avi Muchnick from AB3. We're going to have a great session on A/B testing and conversion rate optimization and how AI fits in with this. I'll even turn on the AI companion, which only seems appropriate for a session like this. Avi and I met a bit ago and got to geek out on some of his time leading product at Shutterstock and Shapeways. I'm sure he'll share way more about his experience, but really curious to hear what he's got in store for us today. So Avi, all yours.
All right. Thank you, David. And thanks to everyone who showed up. Really appreciate it. Especially to people who are either preparing for Passover or Easter. I know it's a crazy day. My wife was going to kill me that I did this today, but show's got to go on. So let me give a quick overview. I'm going to talk today about using AI to automate A/B testing, but more specifically, it's not about A/B testing. It's really about how do we accelerate conversion rate optimization, and AI is one of the most exciting ways I've seen to leverage it. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I'll jump to the relevant slide. So I'm more of like a startup founder than a product executive, but I've got experience doing all of the above. I previously founded a company called Worth1000 in 2002. It was like a photo editing contest site. Got a lot of virality. It exploded. I did a lot of A/B testing there, so I learned, just how to drive more people to click on the ads. That was where I got my first taste of the impact it could have. And then from there, I founded another company called Aviary that was first initially a competitive to Adobe's Creative Suite, but based in the cloud. And then ultimately, it became this little software development kit, an SDK that could be embedded into partner apps. And we had a lot of success with that. It had about 10,000 partners integrate our SDK. It had, I think, 150 million downloads of our standalone app that we had to showcase what you could do with that SDK. And inside that SDK, we did a lot of A/B testing also to see which tools and functionality people would use, more from a product feature set perspective than maybe an advertising perspective, but still important. And ultimately, we sold it to Adobe, who acquired it, and I ran some of the product development for their mobile Creative Cloud site while I was at Adobe. And then post that, I worked at a company called Shapeways, which was pre-IPO and then subsequently IPO'd as their chief product officer, and then as product officer at a public company that you probably have heard of called Shutterstock that does royalty-free stock photography. And then I got the startup itch again and dove back in with what's now known as AB3.ai. So what was really interesting about my time at companies of really all different sizes, startup, pre-IPO, public, is that I noticed across the board, all of them had the same struggle with conversion that I suspect every single company does, or if there's agencies here in the audience today, your clients probably have. So I kind of dug into it a bit. I'll tell you a little bit about what we found. So what I noticed was that in a space where we were spending a fortune on customer acquisition, I mean, the space for digital ad spend is expected to be about $1 trillion spend by 2027. And it's just continuing to go up. Customer acquisition costs are getting more expensive, not less. What we found was on average, there was a 2% conversion rate on acquired customers. So that was insane. We would spend, I can't go into the details of the numbers, but we would spend a fortune at companies like Shutterstock and Shapeways and only get a small subset. We would, of course, have some fantastic people join our team to do A/B testing and conversion rate optimization for us and do deep dives on our analytics and figure out where they could tweak and what changes they can make. And they would have an impact. Those people were great. Unfortunately, what would happen there is only the pages they were actively working on would benefit. And the moment they moved on to other pages, little by little, the original pages would start to fall off again and then revert back to the norm. And then worse of all, those people would ultimately, if they were really good, get poached and go somewhere else, taking a lot of institutional knowledge with them. So at this time, I started thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if we could leverage AI to not only optimize the pages we're currently focused on, but optimize literally every single page on a website forever, continuously. And at the time, it was a little bit of a pipe dream, but then I started playing with some of the early access betas in OpenAI and a few other AI models, and I realized like we actually could create content that's really close, if not even equal to what humans can create today. And today at the time was about 2019, 2020. So I started, messing around with it a little bit. We started playing with a bunch of different options, and then I realized, oh my gosh, there's really something to this. And I'm going to go dive into a demo in a second, but just really, really quick. I mean, we are able to now currently make phenomenal changes to the copy on content. We're able to make changes to the imagery, which even a year ago I would say was not going to be possible. But it's accelerating so fast, it's insane. I don't know if any of you have seen a demo for, I think OpenAI released a demo for video. I think it's called Sora. It's just phenomenal what they're producing. And I think we're in a world where you literally could leverage AI generated content to do automated testing. So it's an exciting place to be. I think we're at the forefront of it. I'm noticing a few other companies have already started popping up in the space too, which is always exciting to see. As someone who's founded other companies before, the most important thing you can see in a space are competitors realizing there's a huge opportunity. So with that being said, let's dive in and show you why this is so special and what it can actually do to websites. So let's dive into an actual product live demo. Always keep my fingers crossed before a live demo because you never know what will happen, but it should be good. All right, so let me use one of our early beta customers. This is a company called BarkBox. I just showed them on the other page. And what's really cool about this, what we do is we don't make changes ourselves as a human team. Really, what we are doing is granting permission for the AI to make changes to the site and tell it like what we're okay with the testing and what we're not okay with the testing. My entire goal with the AI generated platform was to come up with a way that AI could literally test millions of pages at once without needing people in the mix, because they were ultimately that bottleneck. So let's see how this works. So the first thing that the AI is going to do for us is identify elements on the page that it can make changes to. So in this case, this wonderful headline, you can tell it's like very humorous. It's a playful brand voice. So monthly dog goodies for good doggies. I'm going to click on it. And by doing so, I'm basically telling the AI that it has permission to work on that area. And what it's doing in the background is it's going out, it's taking this brand language and it's looking at the context of the entire website. And it's understanding what is the brand voice, what's acceptable, what makes sense. And it's trying to come up with some alternatives that work in a similar way. And we've seen some really fun things like, clever alliteration, good puns. Let's take a look at what we have here and I'll make it a little easier to see. So we have 3 variants that it's come up with just to suggest the start to an experiment. So the first one is treat-filled surprises for happy hounds monthly, surprise treats every month for happy pooches, and pup-approved treats and toys delivered monthly. This is a very informal language. It understands the brand voice. And while I wouldn't say this is necessarily better than the content that they have originally, it's a really good start, because what we're doing is really training the page on what works and what doesn't. So now, as let's say the imaginary product manager or ad manager looking at the site here and thinking about what content I'm okay with, what are the pieces I can change, or what are the pieces I can tell the AI, do something slightly differently? Let's take a look at that. So let's look at this first one, treat-filled surprises for happy hounds monthly, which I really don't like. I don't like the text here. I really like the original content, but what I want to do is I want to tell it, I want to see what happens if we go with a slightly more bold original headline. In this case, I'm going to give the AI permission to make the headline a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter, and using some of the suggested brand colors that come up. And that's it, done. I'm going to hit update variants there. I'm going to look at a couple of the others too. Surprise treats every month for happy pooches. I actually like this. This is great. Cool. I'm going to generate one more also. Let's just do one additional generation. Delightful dog surprises for your loyal companions. Okay, cool. And now on the website, I've now created 4 simple variants with a few clicks, and you can see the difference right away just by clicking on them. And if there's anything I don't like, don't approve, easy to take it off. And this works for a bunch of different areas on the page. So we have this Get BarkBox call to action button. Let's click on that and see what it generates. So we've got Claim Your BarkBox, which is pretty good. We've got Unleash Joy, also pretty good. I don't like Claim Your Pups Box. Let's get rid of this one. Let's take this off. And what we're going to do with this one is let's also This time we're going to make this one, let's go with more of this bright blue, and we'll go with a dark black. And again, what we're doing here is granting the AI permission to experiment with the colors, staying within the confines of the brand colors that we've selected. And we'll also give this one a slightly bigger font size. Okay, cool. And you can see it similarly updates right here, right, very quick. The last thing I'll show you on this page, let's click on one of the images and see how we can make changes to the images as well. So I'm going to click on this picture right here. Let's go down to this element. Now, for a company like BarkBox, odds are they have their own brand imagery. They have their own set of images that they want to work with. They do not want to use royalty-free images or stock imagery. In fact, you can see there's a BarkBox bowl in this picture here. So what they would do is they would literally come and drag and drop a bunch of images into this little area on the right. And that's it. AI would now start figuring out which of these images works the best. And we'll show you how that works in a second. But for other companies that don't mind or have maybe more generic imagery, or even BarkBox, if they're running a landing page somewhere where they don't really care, they just want a photo of a dog, we have a few ways that you can generate images like that too. So the first way is we just connect to a few royalty-free libraries. So let's say, click the word dog. Cool. We got one picture there we can leverage. And then separately, we also have the ability to generate images using AI. Behind the scenes, we're using some standard libraries. But just to show you an example, we could do a dog hanging out in a yellow hammock, and we'll hit generate. And this process takes about 15 seconds start to finish. And once it has a sense for what's working on your website, again, not for sites necessarily like BarkBox, but for more generic pages, it's able to start generating lots of images in the background without the humans really having to come in and do any work at all. So here you can see 4 completely original images that were just generated from scratch. And I'll just add this one and this one because they look pretty good. And similar to what I had before with the text, when I make changes here, I can also preview it live on the website as well. So I'm going to hit add those variants, and we're going to stop there for as far as the page manipulation and variant generation goes, because I think we have enough to start our first experiment. All I'm going to do is hit next. Next step in this process is defining success. So how do we tell the AI what's working, what's not working? How do we let the AI basically use that information to go and make changes to the page based on what's working and what's not? So we have 3 options. The first 2 are listed here, and that's a click event. So we're going to define a call to action on the page that if a user clicks on it or taps on it, we know this was successful. We'll show you that in a second. Separately, we have a page view event. So that could be a user maybe in a shopping cart flow. If a user makes it all the way to the checkout page and they hit the confirmation screen, we know that they've been successful. And the third way is we have an integration with some e-commerce platforms like Shopify, and we can actually track revenue if you integrate our plugin. And in that scenario, we actually use the data from your orders on which orders are generating the most revenue, take a look back at the configuration of variables that we put out on the page when the user clicked, and actually use that as another way for our AI to intelligently try to drive more revenue to your page. But for now, we'll click on click event. We'll keep it very simple. It's a click event on that current page. And here's how we define it. So anyone who clicks on this Get BarkBox button, and maybe we'll do this Get BarkBox button in the top right corner, these 2, that's success for us. And we'll just measure that for our quick experiment here. We can make this funnel deeper if we wanted to. We could say, okay, well, I want to see further pages inside the funnel. For purposes of this demo, this call, I'll keep it simple, but just know that there's an unlimited number of funnel steps that you could get. And we do offer a simple insight into how the funnel is working. So we'll click next. And now we're at the final step in the process. This is really the easiest thing in the world. We offer 2 options. You can embed the script on your web page. And the entire way our product works is it's a little piece of JavaScript. You add it to the header of your website, and you only have to do that once per website. And then you can do this. You can create as many campaigns as you want and never have to add this again. And this will enable our AI to change your website in real time in a secure way. Alternative number 2 is we can make a copy of your web page, whatever's there already. And if you wanted to maybe, let's say, do a test, run traffic against it, maybe from your mailing list or from Google, you could share this URL with that group or with that ad campaign, and then you'll get the results of your campaign. Very simple. So for purposes of this demo, let's click embed script. And this is it. This is the entire script that someone on your development team or tech team would have to add. If you have a Shopify site or WordPress, you're just putting this in the head tags and you're doing this once and never again. We have a number of tutorials, HTML, React, Next, WordPress, Shopify. And our team is more than willing to do this on the phone with your team. We've timed it. It takes literally 5 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. That's like not a made up statistic. So it's the easiest thing in the world to integrate. And that's it. Now you're done and ready to go. So let me show you a couple of other settings here. Last things, I just know that a lot of customers have asked for this in the past, just so you can see how it works. We have the ability to basically choose how much traffic gets sent to your website. So if you only wanted, let's say 10% of your customers to see the experiments and everyone else would see the original content, totally possible, and you could change this at any time. Similarly, if you're sending ad campaigns through Google or Facebook or any other channel that uses UTM codes, you could say that only that group or only that specific audience could see the experiments as well. So it's just another tool in your arsenal that we provide. So let's create the campaign here, and we're going to take a look at the advanced settings. Let's go to a campaign that obviously has data because I just created this one. So I'll go back to the campaigns list. Okay, so this is Burner Page. This is our original company name, and this is the demo website that we had for Burner Page. And this is probably the coolest part of the demo because this kind of explains how the AI does what it does. The whole idea here is we're not giving work to people to then go back and make changes to their webpage. We don't want to do that. We really want to let the AI do everything for us, including choosing what experiments to run, what variables to throw up in those experiments, and then ultimately what variables to show more often than others. So what we do is we first assign a benchmark. We do this automatically. We send a certain amount of traffic to the page without our script running, and we see what percentage of traffic converts. In this case, it's 10.5% over the last 30 days on our demo site. We then run our script across the rest of the traffic, and we see what percentage we're converting over time. So in this case, you can see it's grown to about 15%. It's almost a 50% improvement, which is amazing. So here we're passing the funnel, which would give you a lot more information on like where the fall off is. But this is the fun part of the demo. So in this original demonstration at demo.burnerpage.com, and actually let's take a look at that too, so we can see it in action. So this is the site that we're making changes to. And you can see the headline here is capture more visitors, capture more revenue, which seems on its head, this is like a very powerful headline, right? But as you saw above, it only really results in about a 10% conversion rate, which was surprising to us. We really thought when we generated the AI variants, we thought that this was probably going to be the best performer of the bunch. Well, it turns out, no, that wasn't the case at all. So variant 1 is maximize visits and conversions with automation. Variant 5, increase your visitor traffic and boost revenues. Those are all substantially more powerful than the one that we came up with. So what we do in the back end, the AI looks at what's performing really well, and it starts showing that more often. In this case, you can see that our original, or our variant 1, which is the highest performer, has gotten about almost 3,600 visitors as part of this little data set. Variant 5, which is the second performer, has gotten about 800, and the numbers decrease from there. Why? Simply because our AI recognizes this is working and this isn't, and we're giving the lion's share of traffic to the best performers. And at a certain point in time, we'll say, okay, we know now that variant 1 is the winner. We know this is working, and we know that similarly, we know the original in this case and variant 4 are really not performing well. So what we do at that point is we stop showing them. We still show them a little bit. Like in this case, you can see the original's gotten about 16 visitors. We still do show it occasionally just for data purposes to see if something changes. But at that point, what we'll do is we will send an email to your team saying we have new variants to approve, and we automatically generate new variants, but this time based on the highest performer. So it creates this almost like Darwinian evolution of your page where it's constantly improving, and the new winner is always the one that has the variants created off of it. And this is all automated, again, with human approval, but just happening behind the scenes in a way that really maximizes the power that we built. And this is true for all the elements on the page. It's true for text. It's true for the style changes I showed you before, where we can change the sizes and the colors. And it's even true for imagery and other media that we intend to add. At any point in time, you have full control over the variants that are running. If you decide, for example, well, I don't even want to run this campaign right now because we have a special Valentine's Day sale, I guess Earth Day is today, an Earth Day sale, and I want to run a totally different site. Very easy for you to go in and just simply disable the campaign. It's one click and it will instantly turn off on the site, and then you could turn it back on when you're ready. And similarly with any variants, if you wanted to add new variants at any point in time, you just come in here and click the add variant button and add new ones, or disable whatever's running here. And we do deep dive analysis for people that like to get into the stats on why certain things are working or why they're not. So it's really very simple. And here's a preview screen showing it in action as well. So that's the high level demo in a nutshell. I'll now revert back to the pitch part, but actually let me stop right there, because if there's any questions on the demo itself, maybe we stop and answer.
We got a lot of them. So
Oh boy.
These are great. They've been coming in at a steady clip. So I'll just start going in order and I'll get through these. What's required on the website to allow this to happen? You talked about the script. Can this be a WordPress site? Does it need to be something else?
It could be any kind of website. It's any website that has JavaScript embedded on it. So we have a few tutorials for different platforms that we know people use, but if your website is like 99.9% of the rest of the internet, it will work.
Great. And then he was also, from Adam, also asking, is there a way for AI to track conversions against changes it makes, then tune for stuff that seems to be working?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat. I didn't realize it was open. So what we need to do is embed that JavaScript, and then the AI will track the conversions against those changes, and it's going to make it change in real time based on what's working. So this is like, it's just this continuous engine. Humans do not have to come in and continue to make changes. The demo is almost a little bit misleading because you're coming in and you're clicking on things and you're choosing things, but really all you're doing is training the AI at the first outset and giving it permission to work in certain areas versus others. We don't want it changing things willy-nilly. We only want it to change the things you're comfortable with it changing. But this would work on Wix or any other website and work on its own.
Great. And then there's the question about the snippet being assigned to specific WordPress pages with the UTM code applied.
Yeah, so all you would have to do is put it in the header of the specific WordPress pages you want it to work on. And then you could still use the UTM code, the audience selection trick that I mentioned before. You would just have to limit what pages it appears on. So there's ways that you can set that up in WordPress specifically that are pretty easy, just a little bit more sophisticated than what we showed over here.
Great. And then this is a big one. I'm sure a lot of folks are wondering here, can it come up with new variants on its own?
Yes, it can. It does that after it learns from your site. So after that first initial run where it's figuring out what's working, what's not, the next step is it's going to send you an email with new variants that it's now learned from your page and say, are you okay to approve these? So, even what we did here, technically they're new variants on their own, but humans are still very involved in the process. But the idea is the same way you would maybe bring an intern into your company and sit down and review the first batch that they did to help guide them in the right direction. It works very similar, but at a certain point, once you trust it, it should really be very fluid and work on its own.
And I mean, the question, just skipping ahead a little bit, since it also comes from Adam and relates to this, is then presumably that human input is also what helps mitigate any effects of hallucinations. I mean, have you seen much of a challenge with hallucinations come up in the AI recommended variants?
You're saying on the imagery side or even on the text side?
I guess either. What do people
text
need
is pretty solid.
My question was in general, Avi. How do you avoid hallucinations? How do you avoid it coming up with racially charged language, for instance? Are there guardrails to eliminate that?
Yeah, so a lot of that is both prompt engineering and leveraging our existing library of content. So basically, we're using a few things. So we're using some publicly accessible libraries that already have some guardrails in place. For example, OpenAI and Midjourney. What we do, though, is behind the scenes, let's just say you saw 3 text variants generated, really we've generated about 25 on our end. And we run them through our own internal filters and try to figure out with like kind of a proprietary score, which ones of these do we think are the best. So actually long term, I hope we don't even have to do that, to be honest, because I think between a year ago till now, it's already crazy. I remember a year ago, actually in March, I was wondering if this startup was even a viable idea, because there was a point when we had text variants that were coming up where they weren't the best. But the state of the industry has accelerated so fast. So where it's not even like, oh, well, a year from now, it'll be even faster. I know that like it's now accelerated to a point where every month it's even better than it was before. So we reap the benefits of OpenAI and a few other companies' progress on LLMs. And then our internal learnings on it protect the rest of what we're building.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Adam. Keeping the questions coming. Let's see. Gabrielle was asking about the source materials for making something from. Is it made from scratch, or where does some of these come from?
So this is we currently partner with Midjourney on some of these imagery. There's what I say is made from scratch. Well, it depends on what the Supreme Court will ultimately say about all of this. But there are some even, let's just say it comes back, you can't use Midjourney anymore. That's fine. We have a partnership with another company in the background that they actually do have source attribution tracking for every single image that's used to train their data set, which I love, by the way, because when I made Aviary, before we were building like this toolkit, the original thing that we were doing was trying to build this like a method of tracking proprietary ownership in the background, and our tools were just a method to do that. So it's dear to my heart. But yeah, for the most part, what we're pretty confident on is the imagery is legal to use. In the event that courts shift their opinion on it, then of course we'll make changes to that. But it's not I call it a serious concern of ours, and it's easy to remedy it. And if someone ever told us they're fine using our product, but they don't want to use either imagery at all or Midjourney, well, that's just a simple matter of us replacing the engine that's in place for that particular customer.
Great. Video. Does this work?
So this does not work for video yet, and I would have told you had we had this webinar a month ago or 2 months ago that I don't foresee it working for another 3 to 5 years. I'll remedy that now, because ever since seeing OpenAI's preview of, I think, again, I might be misremembering the name, it's Sora or Sona. It's amazing. I mean, just absolutely amazing. So if nothing else, one takeaway you should have, forget about our product for a second, just the state of AI and rapid acceleration of development in the space is it's just going to get faster and faster and faster in really, really scary and pleasant ways. And there's nothing, you should assume there's nothing that it can't do or won't be able to do within the coming year.
Wild. And yes, this is so cool. Just to reiterate the comment there. I mean, we might have gotten some of this in terms of what the optimization suggestions are based on platform creative ad format guidelines and the like, but you want to elaborate there at all?
Yeah, so we look at this as true Darwinian evolution. This is how our development team built it, which is that we try not to be too prescriptive about the changes we make. We try to stay as true as possible to what you put on the page originally. We might have a score or a suggestion internally for what we think we can improve, and we'll expose that in certain ways. But really what we're trying to do is not like make drastic changes to the page content. So if you, here's an example, I'm looking at our demo here, and apologies, my monitor didn't let this go into presentation mode without stretching this for everybody. But this convert 45% more traffic without lifting a finger. This is one headline that we originally came up with, and then on our actual website, if we go to ab3.ai, well, this is an AI alternative version that it's come up with that doesn't even lay out properly and doesn't look as smooth in this particular layout, but for some reason, it's performing way better in our stat scores. So we try not to be too prescriptive, because we feel like odds are humans are wrong, and the best indicator is actually performance data. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not. High level, we use it at the very beginning, but really we try to just let the stats speak for themselves, and the changes that we make kind of dictate what future changes we make.
Clients using this? Is it more SMB, enterprise? Who's using it?
So we have a lot of D2C clients and SaaS clients in one group. We also have a number of, it's kind of interesting. I didn't expect this, but fintech and health providers. The reason why I say I didn't expect that was because those are two industries that have a lot of regulations around what kind of content they can use. So I guess at the same time, the idea of a tool that can automatically improve progress over time and save them a lot of time and energy, maybe even save them from having to hire someone, because they really can just like let the AI come up with generations and have people do the approvals rather than sitting there and coming up with things themselves and running these tests themselves. It's proven to be a pretty valuable sales pitch, sales prop. I'll show you a few customers from our early beta test. And this is sort of the impact that ran on them. Let me know if you can see this on the screen. I could try to make it bigger. If not, here we go. So these are actual data stats. And just to be clear, none of these sites ran it across their entire website. They picked specific pages to run the trials on, but these are the trials, these are the results they got back. So just really impressive stuff, because a site like BarkBox or Vendalux, which had a huge impact, they did not expect to get, they were more than curious to try it out. It seemed like a really cool idea. And then the actual impact it made was pretty phenomenal on the number of people who clicked on the call to action button. So pretty cool. Since then, I mean, this was part of our beta test. Since then, we've started experimenting not just with call to action conversion, but even adding revenue data to what percentage lift we're able to add. And that those, I can't share those insights here, but that's been phenomenal too, because we're always nervous about it. Oh yeah, maybe you get more people to click on the button, but then none of them actually convert to customers, in which case, like, what's the point? But no, it turns out this actually does drive real revenue lift as well. Obviously not the full 45% here, but you'll get a percentage of it in a meaningful way.
Great.
One last point on this though. So we are focused right now on SMBs, companies that have, I would say, well, it's really open to anyone, but for the most part, it's companies that are maybe spending $100,000 a year on customer acquisition, that have some budget and are paying for customers to come in. The ultimate goal is obviously for us to go upstream as well and work with enterprise customers. I just felt like this is we're still a startup. We need to do a lot more, I think, to grow our team to be able to support enterprise level needs. But right now, we have a number of enterprise customers we are working with to try to get that right.
Excellent. Question on where else this could be applied, like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, social posts, Shopify sites.
We did not build this to work on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter yet. We wanted to be very focused in our first approach, so we really focused on landing pages and website pages. However, that being said, if this is adopted and it grows, long-term goals are certainly to figure out other places where this can be leveraged. The reason this wouldn't work on Instagram or Twitter is you obviously don't have Instagram or Twitter's permission to make changes using their JavaScript. So we couldn't embed it there. But any page that's in your control that you can add our JavaScript to would work.
Great. There's a question on basically like how much of an input you need, right? Like, does it create variants with some basic info alone, or does it have to be pretty well designed before you go and have it iterate?
I would say think of it really like you're bringing on a smart marketing intern, but straight out of college, no experience before. They learn, they absorb real quick, but you want to see what they're doing. And even for your own sake, even if it's not going to result in any errors, just so you know for yourself how this works. So I would say it could, yes, and it would be probably fine. And I would feel really comfortable saying that. Even on our website, I would do that. But realistically speaking, I would never do that with an intern, so I wouldn't do that with AI either yet. I have a Tesla. It has self-driving. I can tell you on number of fingers, how many times I've ever let it truly self-drive without, keeping my finger on the wheel. But it's super useful, and it does result in a hell of a lot better and smoother of a drive when I'm in traffic, et cetera. So I think it's more about where it can ultimately go, but I think long term, maybe that is something that we'll all feel truly comfortable with it doing. But for now, it still does require some human oversight.
Great. Are there any plans to make it easier for those that have multiple domains they need to support?
So this will work. Let's just say there's two scenarios here. Let's say someone has the same content across multiple domains. It will work for all of those. Like, there's no real issue with that. Our pricing model does, there's different versions of the pricing model that support different domains packages. But if you have the same website and you told us, hey, it's really the same website, just different domains, let us know and we'll give that to you. We'll throw that in, and just ping me privately on that. If you're doing, and that's directly at agent DAO, by the way. So if it's really like you want more of an agency model, and you're telling me, hey, what we're really doing is bringing you 15 different customers, so to speak, just charge us for the overall data, we can definitely work something out. Just ping me on that. In general, the way our pricing model works, though, our costs are related to the number of page views we serve, right? That's what we're being charged for, all the bandwidth involved, all the computing processing time. So that's really my main focus, is making sure we're making money on that and we're not losing money on that. Domains is not really an issue for us. It's just an easier way to bucket customers. So just hit me up again if that's a real concern.
Terrific. Question on incorporating Google Analytics data, and if not, then how does it capture user engagement?
So we're doing proprietary user engagement capture by listening to clicks on the page. So that, I think I showed that during the demo in case that was missed. So there's a point where you can identify different elements on the page, and if a user taps on it or clicks on it, we'll know, or our JavaScript will know. So that's how we're measuring that. We've actually had that request, though. There's Google Analytics events that people want to know if we can capture that. We don't currently support that, but if enough users tell us this is something they want, of course, we'll absolutely consider that.
And Avi, I just threw this into the chat, but I'm very interested in this. Can you look at things like incoming visitor demographics and change content based on that, or incoming visitors that you've seen before and change content based on that?
Not yet, but that's built into our backend to support. So audience segmentation, I think is call it the next logical step for us. And it's something that enterprise customers in particular would want. So when I mentioned before, we're still small, there's certainly a number of things we can tackle at a time. That was one of the concerns. I want to make sure that particular feature is something we are ready to do. We can do it at a low level right now through UTM codes, but I think the deeper integration side of things, like where people come to us and they have their own proprietary way of knowing who their customers are, that I think it needs a little bit more work.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I can see this being very powerful, like showing different content to men and women, just as a base example.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
yeah, we try to toe the line also a little bit on, we obviously don't want to know too much about, your customers, your clients. It's from a privacy perspective, the less we know, the better, right? We want to know how to break the campaign up, and then any guidance you give us, because it's your data, that's fine. But we don't want to, I guess we want to stay as anonymous as possible, or we want to anonymize the data as much as possible.
And then I just wanted to check, I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but this all still runs on our own domain, right? It's not being redirected to a AB3 domain.
Correct.
Right. So it
You
stays
have
on brand.
you have two options. Yep, you have two options. Option one is, which is always recommended, is embedded on your website and it stays on your page. No changes to your URL structure. It's transparent to your users, and there's a lot of benefits to that, obviously, and I'll go into that in a minute too. And option number two is, if you just want to do some private research and don't want to put it on your website, you could use our domain separately. But that's one or the other, your choice.
Cool. It's quite an amazing product you put together here. I'm really impressed.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And I want to get into Jamie's Jamie, not sure if you want to even come on for a second, elaborate, but chiming in, just you had a very thoughtful one. I want to make sure to capture it well.
While I'm eating a little potato kugel, getting ready for tonight.
Cheating.
And thank you for pointing it out. Hey, Avi. This is an awesome platform. I love what you're building. My concern is, well, I'll give you the example of Shrimp Jesus. If you've been following what's been going on with Facebook and how AI algorithms are just making whatever gets a hit. And especially if you're targeted small businesses where the marketing department and within that, the strategy department is not as experienced as maybe they could be with the limited resources they have, hence why they go for somebody like you. The brand stewardship that has to be kind of taken with the responsibility of making sure that the AI doesn't pull the content too far away from the center of what the brand guidelines dictate, because you're offering something that really makes the pull towards the market and away from the product much more apparent. So what do you offer or tell or give best practices to especially small businesses who really have to keep in mind, hey, this might get better traffic, but it's starting to pull you away from who you actually are?
Great question. Wonderful question. So just high level, we'll never put something out there without the person approving it. So just want to make sure that that's clear to everyone. So you'll never have AI kind of running rogue and making changes without at least a human saying this is okay. As far as telling a human, this veers away from your brand voice, that's, I think, out of our domain, because for them, if they don't like what the AI is coming up with, we're kind of relying on them to tell the AI, kind of pull back, don't do things like this. And the AI will learn. It'll say, okay, don't go with informal language anymore, go with more formal, or go with a brand tone that matches the rest of this page in particular, and stick with that. And we try to stay as close to the original intent as we can. Is there a risk that, yes, if you make colors bright red and massive, that more people will click on it, and that's absolutely against brand voice? Is there a risk there? Yes, but we also program in to our AI not to go wild and really try to stay as true to the brand as possible. So it's like these incremental wins versus these, massive spikes in conversion that everyone would love us for, but probably hate us at the end of the day when their site looks like garbage.
Got it. Thank you. It's more the matter of if you're not taking on the responsibility, which why should you? But more what is owed because of the consequence of this benefit, that they don't have the experience to be disciplined about it internally. And maybe there's something to the effect of asking them to have brand guidelines up front, more than just whatever's on the site, which is only a translation of brand guidelines in one specific instance, but just a little bit of kind of almost best practices that they can have access to because of who you're going after, the very small businesses that really don't have the discipline for brand.
Yeah, it's a great point. We have a little hidden secret in our interface. I didn't show it, but it's not that complex. But basically, when you click on an element, you can give additional context to the AI. It may have generated some stuff and maybe you didn't like it, or you want to tell it like, here's what you should keep in mind as you're generating new variants. We offer a way to do that. And I could see us maybe opening up some suggestions for new customers who are signing up to, there's a section maybe where they put in their brand guidelines, and we use that in our prompt generation, because one of the best things about AI is you could be really loose with the language and what you instruct it, and it will still understand. I think that's a wonderful suggestion. So yeah, I will think on how to implement that.
Terrific. Well, we've got a few more questions in here. It's just a quick one from Rahel, who mentioned she was having a great time already testing this out. What are reference options for SEO?
So we actually don't, well, at least today, we don't impact SEO at all. The way our technology works, it's kind of unique. In what we're doing is we're not changing the page before it's delivered to the user's browser. So even passing through Google, for example, Google seeing the original page, what we're doing is making changes in the browser the moment before it renders to the user. So the benefit of that is, if you've worked really hard on developing certain keywords, you don't have to worry that you're going to risk changing something around for better or for worse. We leave that up to you. Separately, this is also great. obviously we built a very stable product, but shit happens, unfortunately, sometimes in the world. So let's say Amazon Web Services, where we're hosted, had an outage, and you're using our product, because all we do is change what's already in their browser before the user sees it. Worst case scenario, they would just see your original website as it was designed, and not see our code. We wouldn't slow anything down or break anything. It would be very simple. And lastly, it doesn't add any latency to, we're not making a round trip call to our server and then back to the web host and then to your customer in order to deliver these changes, which is something a lot of our competitors do. So for us, we are not slowing down pages at all. I think we add a total of 60 milliseconds to the rendering of the page, which is inconsequential for e-commerce sites as far as Google's measured. So I gave a little bit more info on that, but hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, and she was just following up with something that relates to, I think, a couple other questions and comments. Are the variant word changes posted on the dashboard?
Meaning these like word changes here? Is that what they're asking? Where is that question? I'll make sure I answer
It's just the most recent. I was just
Raquel?
following Raquel. So.
Yeah, Raquel, let us know if this is the question you're asking. But yeah, all the variants do appear. They're also modifiable at any time, and you can also add new ones at any time. So it's easy to see like what's working. And what we don't do is, once you've got one and it's already got traffic against it, you can't edit it, but you can delete it or add another one or pause it. That's slightly different. We just don't want to mess with the data integrity at all. But yeah, in the dynamic display, you can see the differences along with some statistics on them. So,
and then
even,
yeah, and then kind of going in reverse, but relating to more of the nuts and bolts of the product here. If there are a few different marketing schemes, how does AI decide which to show for different customers, or is it just random?
So AI is not looking at who the user is. It's looking more at what's working across the board. We're trying to be as Darwinian as possible in our approach. There are a few other competitors in the market who are trying to take demo data on the user who's coming in and making changes based on that. I felt like that might be something we explore later, but I'd rather almost work with a customer. If the customer tells us, I'm sending you an ad tells us through our dashboard, obviously, but I'm sending you an ad campaign, and here's the demographics on the users in this ad campaign, that becomes information we can use to generate variants for that particular demo. If we are doing demographic lookups on the fly right now, I think it would add some latency. And then on top of that, there's really no way you could let a human preview and approve all the different variables in real time. So we're shying away from that as much as possible upfront right now.
And there's also a question on who you even see your competitors as being here.
Yeah, so there's a number of players in the space, from big to startups like us. So biggest one is probably VWO or Optimizely. They are expensive. I won't go into their pricing here, but substantially more than we're charging, orders of magnitude more. There's some players in the space that are doing more personalized stuff. I think there's a company called Mutiny they really just take the approach of like, you can make 4 different versions of your website for different personalities. Also pretty expensive. And there's another company called Intellimize that is probably closest to what we're doing. I actually just saw they were just acquired by Webflow yesterday. I think that was what I saw. So those are like call it the established players in the space. There are companies that are also pretty new that I saw recently announced. So you could take a look. I think one is called Keek, another one's called Evolve, and they try to do something very similar to our approach. I just think maybe we've had a little bit more time to develop it, so we're a bit further along than they are. But it's very cool to see just how much growth is happening in this space. It's always an exciting sign. And I remember when I did Aviary, there was a certain point in time when there were a bunch of like competing photo editors and SDKs that started popping up. And I was like, cool, I know we're onto something now. And there's nothing more exciting than that.
Avi, if I could just jump in with I think my last couple of questions is, can you, if the brand changes, can you input those changes into the AI and have it follow the new guidelines?
Oh, absolutely. Do you
Okay.
mean like with the initial model start corrupting like new results? Is that what you mean?
Well, no, I work with companies a lot, and when they pull me in, they're usually involved. They're either starting or thinking about or in the middle of rebranding themselves. And so if the AI already had the old brand and we change it to something new, is there a way to tell the AI about that? Upload the new brand guideline, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is kind of, it's like every request we get, we're sort of building a new record and then modifying that record and improving the prompt that gets generated. So all we would be doing is kind of refreshing that prompt behind the scenes. So it would actually be pretty seamless.
Okay. And then lastly, when do you rebaseline the data? You know, so you said these did 10% better or 15% better. At some point you have a new baseline. When do you cause there to be a baseline?
Every time you create a new campaign, we're going to baseline the data. So if you, let's just say, change your brand and have an existing URL you now want to do something differently with, just start a new campaign and pause the old one and it will do it again.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other?
We've got a few. I mean, Andy Roy had a fun question here about interactivity, like being able to have like a couple different options and like take people down different paths. And do you see that being viable at some point?
I think right now we're focused more on landing, like we want to get people into that conversion funnel. I think the idea of doing dynamic changes based on earlier questions, it's like an obvious place for us to expand to, but it's not currently something we're offering. So I think it's like a wonderful option, but I could see that being really sophisticated and niche and something we'd want to tackle once we knew that, you know, the actual AI for our landing pages was working perfectly. Then it's like, cool, how do we expand that and do that right?
Yeah. And by the way, as we hit the hour mark, what's the best way for folks to follow up with questions for you or your team?
Oh, sure. Wow, that flew by. Okay. Here's my contact info. So if anyone wants to book a demo and maybe see it on their website, it's our original name for the company was Burner Page. We just have to update that, but it's Calendly/Burner Page. My LinkedIn, feel free to add me on it. Love to, you know, chat with anyone. And then my contact info is avi@ab3.ai. Here's my phone number. Don't abuse it. But anytime you guys want to book a demo and chat, even if you're not interested in the product, but you just want to talk about the AI space, I geek out over it. I love it. So just hit me up. And that's and I'm happy to send you, you know, more information as you need it.
Amazing. Well, appreciate you sharing all that. I mean, it's just fascinating to hear about all you're doing here, and I think also, like, as we quickly get to this point where like that default will soon be that landing pages, like home pages, like these are personalized experiences, and it's just like, how do we get there? And so that you're bringing all this to life, you know, concept that like a lot of folks are personalization everywhere, right? Like it's like an easy answer to what will be the impact of AI, but seeing how it really works, that's pretty damn important. So congrats on all you're doing so far, and look forward to more conversations ahead with you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for everyone who showed up today. Again, happy Passover, Chag Sameach to everyone who's celebrating, and enjoy the rest of the day.
Hey, thank you, Avi. Thanks everyone who joined us today.